The first time I heard my husband sob in the dark, I thought I was dreaming. The sound was raw, almost animal, echoing through the hallway and into the hollow of my chest. I lay there, eyes wide open, listening to the man I loved break apart piece by piece, night after night. He never knew I was awake. He never saw the way I clutched the sheets, holding my breath, afraid that if I moved, the world would shatter. 3 months. That's what he whispered to the shadows. 3 months left. I watched him shrink into himself, his laughter fading, his skin growing pale and thin. He stopped shaving. He stopped making coffee in the mornings. He stopped looking me in the eye. I tried to hold us together. I cooked his favorite meals, left notes in his jacket pockets, searched his face for the man I married. But every day he slipped further away, until all that was left was a ghost in our kitchen, a stranger in our bed. One night he finally told me. The words tumbled out between sobs, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold the letter from the doctor. "It's cancer, Lauren. It's everywhere. They said I have 3 months, maybe less." I remember the taste of metal in my mouth, the way the room spun, the way my heart pounded so loudly I thought he could hear it. I wanted to scream, to run, to wake up from the nightmare. But I just held him, rocking back and forth, whispering that we'd fight, that I'd never let him go. If you've ever loved someone so much that you'd give up everything for them, you'll understand what I did next. I sold the only home I'd ever known. I packed up my childhood in cardboard boxes, signed away the deed, and handed my husband a check for $100,000, the price of hope, the cost of a miracle surgery that might save his life. He cried when I gave him the money. He kissed my forehead, promised he'd come back to me. "You're my whole world, Lauren," he said, his voice breaking. "I'll never forget what you've done for me." He left the next morning, suitcase in hand, eyes shining with tears and something else I couldn't name. I watched him drive away, my heart in my throat, praying that this wasn't goodbye. Days passed. Then weeks. I called the hospital every morning, asking for updates, desperate for any scrap of news. But every time, the answer was the same. "We have no patient by that name." "Are you sure you have the right hospital?" I started to unravel. I barely slept. I barely ate. I wandered the empty rooms of our rented apartment, clutching my phone, waiting for a call that never came. My friends told me to rest, to trust, to have faith. But something inside me was screaming. Something was wrong. One afternoon, I drove to the hospital myself. I marched up to the front desk, clutching Adam's medical file, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers. "My husband is here for surgery," I said, my voice trembling. "His name is Adam Carter. Please, I just need to see him." The nurse looked at me with gentle pity. She checked the computer, shook her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We have no record of an Adam Carter admitted for surgery. Are you sure you have the right date?" I felt the world tilt beneath me. I stumbled outside, the sun too bright, the air too sharp. I called Adam's phone again, but it went straight to voicemail. I left message after message, my words growing more frantic with each call. "Please, Adam, just tell me you're okay, please." That night, I sat on the floor of our empty living room, surrounded by boxes and silence. I stared at the checkbook, at the empty space where our wedding photo used to hang. I thought about the man I married, the promises we made, the life we built together. I thought about the way he looked at me the night before he left. Like he was already gone. I started to dig. I called his office, his friends, even his mother. No one had seen him. No one knew where he was. His social media was silent, his email untouched. It was like he'd vanished into thin air. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't accept that the man I loved was just gone. I started to retrace his steps, piecing together the last few weeks of his life. I found receipts for gas stations hours away, hotel bookings in cities he'd never mentioned, strange charges on our joint account, restaurants, bars, even a jewelry store. The more I found, the colder I became. The grief turned to suspicion, the suspicion to anger. I started to wonder if I'd ever really known him at all. If you're still watching, please like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I know this story is hard to hear, but I promise it's not over yet. Now back to the story. One night, as I scrolled through his credit card statements for the 100th time, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A hotel reservation at a beach resort. 2 days after his supposed surgery. 2 guests, 1 king bed. I stared at the screen, my hands numb, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. I knew that name. The second guest? My best friend. I sat frozen, the glow of the laptop screen painting my face in ghostly blue. My best friend's name stared back at me, bold and undeniable, right next to Adam's. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake, a coincidence, some kind of clerical error. But deep down I knew. I knew in the way your stomach drops before bad news, in the way your heart races when you sense danger. I knew, but I needed proof. I barely remember driving to the beach. I remember the rain on the windshield, the wipers beating a frantic rhythm, the way my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I remember the taste of fear and betrayal, bitter and metallic, rising in my throat with every mile. I replayed every conversation with my best friend, every time she'd hugged me and whispered, "You're so lucky to have him." I wondered if she'd been lying to me all along. The resort was beautiful, the kind of place Adam and I used to dream about visiting together. Palm trees swayed in the breeze. The ocean sparkled under a sky that seemed too blue to be real. I parked far from the entrance, my heart pounding as I walked through the lobby, trying to look like I belonged. I asked the front desk for Adam's room, spinning a story about a surprise visit. The clerk smiled, checked the computer, and handed me a key card without a second thought. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, my hands shaking so badly I could barely press the button. The hallway was quiet, the only sound the distant crash of waves. I stood outside the door for a long time, listening. Laughter drifted through the wood, Adam's laugh and hers. My best friend. I knocked. The laughter stopped. Footsteps approached, and then the door swung open. Adam stood there, tanned and healthy, wearing swim trunks and a shirt I'd never seen before. For a moment, he just stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Lauren?" he stammered, his face draining of color. How did you... I pushed past him into the room. My best friend was there, wrapped in a towel, her hair wet from the pool. She froze when she saw me, her eyes wide with shock and guilt. For a moment, none of us spoke. The silence was thick, suffocating. I looked at Adam, at the man who'd cried in my arms, who'd told me he was dying, who'd taken everything I had left. I looked at my best friend, the woman I'd trusted with every secret, every heartbreak, every hope. "Why?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "Why would you do this to me?" Adam looked away, shame burning in his cheeks. My best friend started to cry, her hands trembling as she tried to explain. "It just happened, Lauren. We didn't mean for it to..." I held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't. Adam tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "You lied to me," I said, my voice growing stronger. "You said you were dying. You let me sell my home, my family's home, for you. You took everything." He shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Lauren. I didn't know what else to do. I was drowning in debt, and I thought, if I could just get the money, I could start over. I never meant to hurt you." My best friend sobbed, covering her face. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you." I felt numb, hollowed out. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain they'd given me. But all I could do was stand there, shaking. As the truth settled over me like a shroud, I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me. I didn't look back. The drive home was a blur. I cried until my throat was raw, until there were no tears left. I thought about the house I'd lost, the life I'd built, the love I'd given so freely. I thought about every warning sign I'd ignored, every time I'd chosen to believe in the best instead of seeing the truth. When I got home, the apartment felt colder than ever. I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, and let the silence swallow me whole. I didn't answer the phone when Adam called. I didn't read the messages my best friend sent. I just sat there staring at the wall, trying to figure out how to start over. But as the days passed, something inside me shifted. The grief turned to anger, the anger to resolve. I realized that I was still here. I was still standing. They had taken everything, but they hadn't taken me. I started to rebuild. I found a new job, a new apartment, a new sense of purpose. I reached out to old friends, made new ones, learned to trust again, slowly, painfully, but surely. I went to therapy, talked through the pain, learned to forgive myself for loving the wrong people. If you're still watching, thank you. Please like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I know this story is hard, but I promise there's more. Now back to the story. One afternoon, months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in Adam's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it, not sure if I was ready for whatever he had to say. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. I hesitated before opening it, my heart pounding in my chest. I wondered if it would be another lie, another excuse. Or maybe, just maybe, an apology that actually meant something. I unfolded the letter and began to read. Lauren, I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I don't blame you. I've spent every day since you found us wishing I could take it all back. I lied to you. I lied about the cancer, the surgery, everything. I was desperate and selfish, and I let my fear ruin the only good thing I ever had. I know I can't fix what I've done, but I want you to know the truth. The money is gone. I tried to gamble it back, thinking I could win enough to pay you back and start over. Instead, I lost everything. Your best friend left me when she realized what I'd done. I'm alone now, and I deserve it. I'm sorry, Lauren. I hope you find happiness, real happiness, with someone who deserves you. Adam. I read the letter twice, then a third time, my hands trembling. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that I finally had the truth, that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been right all along. Sadness for the life I'd lost, for the love I'd given so freely, for the trust that had been shattered. But as I sat there, the sun streaming through the window, I realized something important. I was still here. I had survived. I had lost my home, my marriage, my best friend, but I hadn't lost myself. I was stronger than I'd ever known. I decided to take back my life piece by piece. I started volunteering at a local shelter, helping women who had been through their own heartbreaks and betrayals. I found comfort in their stories, in the way we lifted each other up, in the knowledge that I wasn't alone. I learned to laugh again, to trust again, to hope again. One day, as I walked along the same beach, where I'd found Adam and my best friend, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The waves crashed against the shore. The sun warmed my face. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about letting Adam off the hook. It was about letting go of the pain, the anger, the need for answers. It was about choosing myself, choosing happiness, choosing to move forward. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. You can survive the worst heartbreak, the deepest betrayal, and still come out whole. You can rebuild, you can heal, and you can find joy again. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Thank you for listening to my story. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Maybe my story will help someone else find the courage to start over, to trust again, to believe that better days are ahead. Because sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who teach us how to love ourselves. And sometimes, the end of one story is just the beginning of another.